Morning, everyone, and thank you for your attendance. As many of you are aware, on January 3rd of this year, we developed a partnership once again with Henry's Camera in conjunction with Olympus to launch our Pistols for Pixels gun amnesty program. I believe this is the second one that we have done. And so far, as a result of this June 3rd launch off, we have received well over 100 firearms that are operable and thousands of rounds of ammunition. And we've got a couple here on display just for an example to show you. However, we're not done yet. What we're hoping for today is we're launching another appeal, and we're hoping that members of the community will be encouraged to bring any of the unwanted firearms that you may have in your possession to this program so that we can successfully destroy them. We have now decided to extend this initiative until June the 30th. However, it will not be extended after that. So June 30th will be the last day of this gun amnesty program, and we're hoping that those who may not have been aware of this program are now aware and will, in fact, participate in this program. The process to surrender a firearm is quite simple. All you have to do is contact Toronto Police at 416-808-2222, and a police officer will arrive at your address and will take that firearm. We are asking, please do not bring a firearm to a police station, and certainly do not bring a firearm to Henry's as well. We've said in the past that there's going to be, we expect a very low expectation that the criminal element will bring these firearms or call us to have them come to their house and to retrieve the firearms. This program is designed primarily for those honest folks who have the firearms legally, but for whatever reasons, due to whatever change, do no longer want to have those firearms in their possession and are willing to render those firearms over to our amnesty program. By doing so, you will guarantee that that firearm will not get within the criminal element. And so that's what we're appealing for today. And I'd like to remind those that do own a firearm that you are legally responsible for the laws and regulations in how you should have that firearm secured. So please ensure that if you do keep your firearms, to be aware of the responsibilities that are necessary when you do make that commitment to have a firearms. Once again, I would just like to have a special thanks to Henry's Camera for participating once again for this Pistols for Pistols program, and also to Olympus. The camera that we'll be giving out, that Olympus will be giving out, is called the VG160. I'm not sure if we have one here, but if we have one here, we'll definitely show that. And this is it right here. And once again, thank you for your attendance. And if anyone wants to ask any questions, now would be the time.
Deputy?
Yeah, we're very optimistic. The participation so far by members of the community has been pretty positive. One of the things that we found out is that the awareness piece was something that seemed to be lacking. People weren't aware of this program. They weren't aware of exactly how long it was going to last for. So now, hopefully, with the understanding that June 30th is, in fact, the definitive date in which this amnesty program is going to be over, that we'll get more participation.
Okay, I would just say the criminal element that may see this as a fine opportunity to change their life around and submit some of the firearms they've done illegally.
Listen, anyone that wants to change their lives around, we're willing to assist and work with them in changing their lives around, and there are many other programs along with us that can assist in that from happening.
Deputy, what about replica handguns? Some replica firearms are banned by the criminal code, and there's some look-alike pellet guns or starter's pistols. Are they included in this, sir?
Well, you know what, Cam, anything that can cause any type of violence, whether real or fake, if you want to turn that in, then please turn it in. So far to date, we've had 120 victims that have been shot as a result of firearm offenses, and anything that we can do to reduce or diminish that is why this program has been designed. And I can tell you that one of the reasons why this program is successful is because the public has made a strong appeal to have this type of program. So we're answering to that appeal that the public has, in fact, asked for quite some time.
Will these guns be tested, the ones that work, will they be test fired to see if they are indeed connected to anything historically?
Yes, all firearms, there are certain criteria in which for this amnesty program to be effective, and one of them is to have them tested.
Can you talk about some of the, I guess, more dangerous firearms that you've received, some of the ones that might be turned in?
You know, rifles are extremely dangerous. First, I just want to make a note that any firearm is a dangerous firearm. So I don't want to diminish the importance. I don't want someone to sit there and think, well, you know, because this isn't really a heavy-duty weapon, I'm not going to bring it in. Anyone that has a firearm that doesn't want a firearm in their residence, this is the opportunity to have it turned over so that it doesn't get out there. But we've got a lot of long barrel weapons that have been turned in during this particular amnesty program, and hopefully there'll be more to come.
What would you say, people who've turned them in so far, if you could, what would be a very common motivation for them to do that? Or can you give us a couple of motivations?
Well, there are many. It depends on whether or not it's something you're interested in anymore. A lot of times it's a family status change, whether or not someone who used to own the firearm is no longer in the residence. Sometimes it can be family status. People have children, and so the house environment has changed, and now they want to remove those firearms from their residence. So there are numerous aspects in which a person initially wanted a firearm, but now wants that firearm removed from their residence.
Deputy, I'm sorry, could you just review for us how typically it is that guns in private homes get stolen? Like, how big an issue is this in terms of theft of weapons?
Theft of weapons is an issue. I can't give out the actual numbers because I don't have the numbers on me right now. We do know that approximately 70% of the firearms are coming in from the States. However, there are the remainder of firearms that still come in that are put in the criminals' hands through other criminal offenses, whether it be a break and enter or theft or things along those lines. And then once it gets in that criminal element, then that leads to potential victims of our city.
I might be wrong, but aren't some of these weapons restricted because of size and length of barrel and things like that? The handguns?
Yeah, some firearms are restricted.
So if someone turns it in, do they face charges if they're like for having a restricted weapon?
No, there are certain circumstances. As I said, that's why it's called amnesty. If you make that phone call to turn that firearm in, then we will retrieve that firearm and then we will test it. And if there's a historical event or occurrence, then that occurrence or event will be investigated. We want these firearms off the streets, and that's the bottom line. And you have to bear in mind that sometimes those firearms are not the person who has made the phone call. It's not theirs. It could be someone that has passed on or another relative or someone else.
Deputy Chief, we've heard numerous times before how one gun could be linked to various crimes throughout the city. Nowadays, criminals are exchanging them, selling them, renting them out. Can you talk about how that becomes an issue with the theft of some of these firearms?
Well, you know, it's all encompassing when you talk about firearms, and the fact that access to firearms has become a much easier process within Canada. And so it's a program like this that anything that can diminish or reduce that number of firearms in the City of Toronto gives us an opportunity to make quality of life a lot better in the City of Toronto. So, but as you stated, there are many aspects of having possession of firearms, lending, renting, purchasing, and the access to it has become easier over the past several years.
Even anecdotally, is there any comment you can make on the number of firearms that have been turned in that have come under investigation because of the history?
I don't have those numbers on me, if that's what you're asking.
And just so we're clear, so if someone turns in a restricted firearm, whether it's the length of it or just the make of it or whatever, if no history is tied to that gun, then they will not face charges.
That's correct. That firearm will be destroyed.
How do they destroy it? What's the process for that?
You know what? Different weapons are different processes. So I've got an expert here. If you want the mechanics or the mechanical breakdowns or an explanation of some of these particular types of firearms, I could have this gentleman here.
Just give us a bit of an overview of what you do have right here now.
Good afternoon or good morning. It's Bruce Finn from the Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force. What I see before me here, some of the firearms that are turned in up at the upper top are some Army surplus or maybe historical firearms that have been brought back as souvenirs from the war. Some of the handguns also look to be around the same era. The lower ones seem to be firearms, non-restricted hunting rifles and .22s and shotguns.
Any of the bullets, there's some plastic or the tips on any of those bullets. Does that lead you to think that some of it's not just hunting ammunition?
No, most of the time you see stuff like that, it's a nylon tip on that bullet that causes it to mushroom a little quicker than normal.
But as far as You know, you can
It
buy
is.
them from a sporting goods, yeah.
It is. From what I see here, most of the ammunition here are strictly hunting, whether it be shot shells or cartridges down below.
What year would you say some of these historical rifles and pistols are from?
Well, some of them there, a couple I would say would be early 1900s, maybe even a bit older, and nothing there that I would consider to be an antique at this point from what I can just look at.
Bruce, what would your message be to people that may find it out, whether like this is at home, this is stumble on or whatever, how important is it to take advantage of the program?
It's very important to take advantage of this program. We've done it in the past and it's worked well. It gets them off the street, and even if a lot of people want to keep them with respect to a family heirloom, maybe a grandfather has brought it back or owned it, and sometimes unexpectedly they get misplaced or lost during moving, and then they could possibly turn up into a criminal scene where let's just get them off the street, get them out of the way, and not have it tracked back to you.
Is there any way of getting a comparison of where you're at in terms of numbers brought in, sorry, Scott, in terms of numbers brought in last year compared to this year at this time?
I personally don't have any of the numbers with me today. Property Bureau would probably have more than that, or the deputy would be able to provide them later.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and that concludes this conference.